WCLN 1170 Radio and Cable Channel 16 are pleased to present We Should Know, hosted by J.W. Simmons, an upbeat, informative look at people, places, and issues facing our community. This education-based analysis of issues will remain positive and informative as we consider closely what we should know.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We Should Know is on the air. I am J.W. Simmons. I'm glad to welcome you this morning. Each and every Tuesday at 2:30, we come to you with hopefully for you, a interesting program, something that is educational, information that you can use, that benefits you some way in your life, and hopefully at the end of our conversation has enriched your life in some way. Certainly to the show today, we hope we'll do that, and I feel confident that we will. A guest that's been on previously, Joey Leggett. Joey is a person by name that a number of folks in the county knows as CEO and superintendent of Falcon's Children's Home and Family Services. Joey, thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to be with us this morning to talk to us about a very sometimes heart-wrenching but a critically important program and thing that you do in the northern part of the county. Let's kind of refresh folks' memory a little bit. You have a background right here in Clinton. I mean, you were CEO out at the Mary Grand and Southwood. You got experience there. You stepped into this arena of Falcon's Children's Home. The time that you've been in there, and you're going on a number of years, well over a decade now, in doing that.
I was a young man when I went there.
You're very young man. Now, of course, a lot of people might not recognize us.
That's right.
The interesting thing is, though, this was a life-changing experience when you decided to do it. But it's been even more life-changing experience for you as you have done this job, correct?
Very much so. First of all, going there I'm a person of faith, and I was very happy here in Clinton. My wife is from here in Clinton. I'd been in Clinton for almost 20 years. I've been a probation officer, social worker, and then was the administrator at Mary Grand Nursing Center. And went to a wedding down in Falcon, and someone said, has the bishop of the IPHC church talked to you? And I said, why would the bishop want to speak to me? I'm not a pastor. And they said, they're throwing your name around as a possible candidate for Falcon Children's Home. And I laughed. I said, oh, that's fine. We just built a house at Timberlake. We were happy here. And but as a person of faith, I've learned a lot of times when you think you're comfortable, God will kind of rattle your cage a little bit. And so I got home, began to think about that and say, you know, what is this thing going on with Falcon? And so I called someone, made a few calls, and they said, Falcon's really hit a tough time. The census has gone down significantly, and they want someone that has experience in the social work realm, juvenile probation officer realm or probation office realm, and then, of course, running a nursing home. And for those that don't know it, Mary Grand Nursing Center is the second largest nursing home in the state of North Carolina. You've got 240 residents there and almost 170 employees, at least when I was there. And so I began to think about that. Is there something here that maybe I need to pay closer attention to? And that sort of led me going to Falcon and realized that really I cut my teeth, if you would, here in Sampson County. I mean, I worked at the courthouse, I worked with Jimmy Thornton, a good friend of mine now, the sheriff. I worked with Mary Margaret Hobbs in social services. And then I worked with George Wilson, who I just loved to death, great man at the nursing home. And, you know, sometimes in life you look back and realize that God was kind of preparing you without you even knowing it. And not that I was the most spiritual person in the world, and I'm certainly not a minister, but in his own way, God has a purpose and a plan. And I believe he's always had a plan for the Falcon Children's Home. It started in 1909 at a Falcon camp meeting service. And so here we are almost 109 years later, 110 years later. And according to our estimates, and I believe it's pretty accurate, we've served about 20,000 children, either indirectly or directly. But back to your other question, yes, I went there thinking, okay, I need to go and try to introduce programs and different strategies to try to make Falcon Children's Home be successful again and being able to serve children. But I can tell you this, they've changed my life more than I've changed their life. I'm humbled and honored and blessed to be able to work there. But when you see kids who are placed there for various reasons, whether it be abuse or neglect or sometimes truancy or sometimes just because there's not the financial means to take care of a child, and the resiliency that you see in those children, they are the heroes to me. I don't think I could do it. To imagine being taken from your home sometimes in the middle of the night, sometimes without notice, and taken to a strange place, and to see these kids bounce back. But to see them grow as adults and to see I call it the light goes off in their eyes, and I can tell, hey, they finally realize they're in a safe place, we're a good place. And they are truly a blessing to me.
This is something that, in listening to your observations about how you kind of got here, it's almost like you were prepared for this journey. The experience you've got, the ability to work with people, and all the venues that you just mentioned has prepared you now to see some things that for most people, they just don't want to look at that picture because it is so horrific, and as you just pointed out, it tears at your heart.
It does, and in eastern North Carolina or in this area, or Southeast in general, with the opioid crisis, there's a lot more situations where children are coming into care. And I think it helped that I had worked with young people before at social services in Sampson County, as well as with a probation officer here in Clinton. But still, I had not seen to the degree I see now the things that are affecting children. You know, I think you could equate it to school. I think in the 60s, the biggest problem at schools was smoking at school and chewing gum. And now you got people shooting in schools, and school shootings and gangs. The same thing, the children we work with kind of mirrors that. Some of the issues they're dealing with now are not like they were years ago. Years ago, it was maybe alcohol issues with mom and dad. Today, it's drugs, sexual abuse on a lot of the children. And so I see the worst of mankind, but by the same token, I see programs like yours, different civic clubs, different churches step up and say, we want to help. So I see the worst of mankind in some ways, but then I see the best of mankind in the other ways because they want to contribute and help Falcon Children's Home, and they give to Falcon Children's Home. And the giving there is amazing. The people who want to give, not just monetarily, but just their time and of their resources and different materials. And so it's a dichotomy, if you would, of different emotions there. But one thing I always tell our staff, and what I always make sure I don't do, is I never, ever put down the children's parents. A lot of times parents go through things that's not their fault. I mean, sometimes they get turned sideways. There's different reasons that led them to get involved in what they got into. And to that child, that's still mom and daddy. I don't care what mom and daddy may have done or not done, that's still their parents. And we need to honor that and let those children know we're there to support them until they can go back to mom and dad if that situation works out.
You mentioned the opioid issue. It has impacted the entire United States. You know, we've got an executive order from the president that talks about that, and a lot of programs that we have done. We've had a number of people come on to talk about opioids and addiction. That huge addiction cycle, how many, or what's the number of folks that you would say that is under your care now that are youth that is directly related either to opioid or some addictive substance?
I would say 50% of the children in our care are there.
Which is huge.
Which is huge, right? We have 80-some students at Falcon Children's Home now. We have 30 at our children's home in South Carolina, Turbyville. We also have 30 children in our foster homes that we license across the state now. So of those 150 or 55 children, I'd say about half probably are related to some sort of substance abuse.
And the whole substance abuse picture, we've learned so much in the years past, and in interviewing a number of people that are considered experts in the field, they talk about it as a reoccurring chronic brain disease that literally folks battle every day to sustain and maintain track. So to your point, not blaming people, but encouraging folks to seek assistance and understand becomes critical as well.
Very much so. And it's also part of the healing for the child. You don't want them to see a mom and dad as some sort of evil person. You want them to see them as a mom and dad who, and I tell students this, they're adults. Adults make mistakes just like children do. Adults aren't perfect. I'm not perfect. I make mistakes. We're here to help you till they can get the help they need, and hopefully that'll work out. For example, we just got a 15-year-old boy and his 8-year-old sister, and they are the most well-behaved, well-spoken children I think I've ever seen. And when they came into care, they were signing them in. It was like at 10 o'clock one night, and they, the 15-year-old boy said to the social worker who was signing them in, she said, "I'm glad we're here. Mama raised us good, but Mama's got turned sideways with some drug issues. And she was allowing people into the home. And my little sister's going to need some therapy. You need to work with her, continue to bless her." And so that's the kind of situations we're dealing with. But right now, you'll see those two kids in our Harvest Train program. We'll talk about that a little bit later. He's the MC of our Harvest Train program. It's amazing how these kids are, again, resilient. but they've had a good mother, but she just got turned sideways. And so they're having a hard time wrapping their head around that. How do we understand? We know Mama loves us, we know Mama cares, but by the same token, Mama's got onto this drug issue that's really taken her away from what she should be doing as a parent. And he said, I'll never forget, he said, my 8-year-old sister's going to need some therapy, make sure you get her therapy. And I thought to myself, here's a 15-year-old boy responsible for his 8-year-old sister. What a blessing. But he was raised right. It's just his mother got turned sideways. She's not a bad person. It's just the addictions has made her do some bad things.
For folks listening to this show, and of course, you know, Joey, I've known you for a long time, it's almost as though for people of faith, as you mentioned a while ago, we can kind of see you being placed in the position you're in to help carry forward some plans that you and I probably don't even maybe know what they are.
Yeah, we don't, and that's sort of how it's transitioned in these 12 years, almost 12 and a half now I've been at Falcon, is there's things will happen and we'll start a program from that. And really every program we started at Falcon Children's Home came because of a situation with a child that came to Falcon, and I said, you know what, we might need to look at venturing further into that program. I'll tell you about a statistic that has really haunted me since I've been there. And I'm kind of skeptical to say this because I don't want any foster child to think we're speaking this as destiny over them. But over 80% of the people on death row were either in foster homes or group homes as a child. That bothers me when I think about that. Yeah. Because I'm thinking about those kids who come into our doors at Falcon Children's Home. How many of those may end up on death row if those statistics remain true? So I feel motivated to make sure we do programs that give them hope, that change their perspective and get them going in the right direction. And most of the children we get are 12 and older. We don't get young children for the most part. They're mostly teenagers. And so we have to get programs that will get them on the right career path because we don't have that long with them anymore. Back in the old days when a kid came to Falcon Children's Home, they'd come at 4 or 5 years old and stay till they graduated. Nowadays they'll come at 14, 15 and stay till they're 18, or they can stay to 21 if they will. So we've got a short time to try to intervene in their life and get them on a correct direction. And you can imagine if they're coming with as a teenager, they're bringing a lot of issues with them already. They're already getting into manhood or womanhood, so they've already experienced some things in life that we have to try to combat and try to get them to change the way they're looking at things.
We'll take a break. We'll be back in a moment. Ladies and gentlemen, we're talking about the critical moments in a child's life as they mature and grow, and sometimes they end up, in many cases, fortunate to end up at Falcon's Children's Home. We're talking with Joey Leggett, the CEO. We'll be back in a moment. Call a friend and stay tuned.
Experiencing slow internet? If you have a fast internet package, the problem is most likely your wireless router. With more devices using Wi-Fi, your wireless router may not be able to deliver the speed and coverage you need. We now have the leading solution to enhance your internet experience. Using small devices in a mesh network, these Wi-Fi appliances cover just about any size home so that all your devices can operate to their fullest potential. Whole home Wi-Fi from Star Communications. Get the most out of your internet connection.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. We Should Know is on there. We're coming to you from Star Communications, Channel 16, WCLN Radio. There's a summation in the Sampson Weekly newspaper. We thank you for being with us each and every week, and I also thank you for your comments that oftentimes you send to weshouldknowedu@gmail.com. That's weshouldknowedu@gmail.com. Also, our snail mail address is Post Office Box 1482, Clinton, North Carolina. Please continue to send us your comments, observations, and suggestions. We're talking with Joey Leggett, CEO of the Children's Home up in Falcon. Joey, as we went off, we were talking about some of the issues, and it was kind of a profound observation that you made, for me at least, that 80% of the folks oftentimes that are on death row has been in foster care or some alternative form of structure in their life. That number is just, for some reason, resonating with me and sticks with me, that maybe that's giving us a message. What would that message be?
It's that somehow in the foster care system we're not doing our job correctly. When I say we, I'm talking about everyone, social services, group homes, foster homes. We've got to be more intentional about understanding where these children are coming from. And for example, and I was at a seminar yesterday in Greensboro, kind of heard someone speaking about this. A lot of times we see the actions and we don't understand it, and we correct the children or try to correct that behavior, not realizing that the actions these children are displaying are actually a direct result of trauma in their life. In other words, a child may be angry, cussing you out, or doing something totally off the charts. Destructive, anything we would think is normal behavior. So we try to address that behavior. When they may be doing that normal behavior because that was how they defended themselves in a home environment when there were strange people in their home. And I'll give an example. The lady who spoke yesterday, who grew up as a foster child, said that when she came home, if there was 3 things in place, she knew that she was safe. If there was a shotgun sitting beside the couch, if her mother was in the back room with a man, if there was a line of cocaine on the table, that meant safety to her because she knew no one was focusing on her. She said if any one of those 3 things were not there, then she knew that what she was walking into may come to her, whether it be a strange person in the house, whether the mother may be doing something she shouldn't be doing, or law enforcement may be coming. So she grew up hating law enforcement because she was taught they were bad. So you see, we have to make sure we understand why these kids behave like they do. These outward actions they do are not meant to be destructive to us necessarily. That's a safety net for them. So it's just, it is a whole, the trauma impact that's on a kid who goes through the foster care system, we need to understand that. They live in a different world sometimes than what we really can comprehend. And for example, we got a call yesterday. I was coming back from Greensboro and they called me and said, Mr. Leggett, can we take this child? And I said, well, tell me why you're hesitant to take this child. And they said, well, he purposely urinates every night around his bed at night. And I said, we definitely can take that child. I said, Mr. Leggett, we can't deal with that. I said, yes, we can. Somewhere that child has been traumatized to the fact that's some kind of a defensive mechanism. We've got to make sure we can try to get to that child. And the reason those statistics haunt me so much, and I'm glad to hear you say it bothers you too, because when I heard it, I was like, you got to be kidding me. Is because unless we can somehow, and I'm talking about we as society, not just Falcon Children's Home, but unless we somehow can have an intervention in their life and show them you can be safe. You don't have to act this way. You don't have to. And a lot of times kids in foster care grow up thinking they're not worthy or somehow that they're different. And because a lot of foster kids, you'll never know they're a foster kid because they blend in. They look like me and you or your child and my child. They hide that secret, but deep down they've got this inferiority complex that's forming because there's a reason mom and daddy don't want me, or there's a reason mom and dad don't have me in the home. I'm not like this child and that child. So really, it's just really trying to get into the understanding, and I put it in as simple as I can, but get into the understanding of where this child is and understanding what's caused them to act that way, their background. And unless we can somehow intervene, and when I first got to Falcon, when I got there was 14 children there, and I said, where are the children going? And they're saying children 12 and under now are put in foster homes. We were not licensed in foster homes at that point. I said, okay, we must become a campus of teenagers. And I remember one of my case managers saying, oh, Mr. Leggett, that's a whole nother ball game. It's a whole nother ball game, but it's a ball game worth fighting for because we may be the last person that can somehow affect a change in this child's life.
Joey, do we and I'll use the general term, as a society as a whole, do we stigmatize children that have been in nursing homes or not nursing homes, but children's homes and foster care? Do we as a society as a whole tend to stigmatize those children?
I think so. I don't think knowingly. I don't think anybody in society would want to make a child feel less, but it's just the action sometimes we do. Or, you'll say, that child does that because they don't really have a mom and dad in the home, or stay away from that child because, we don't know what kind of background they've got. And not openly we say that, but sometimes our actions do. We don't invite them to certain things or those kind of things. So I think all that plays into it. And in fact, the young lady who I heard speak yesterday who wrote a book, she said that when she was in foster care, she didn't think she could go to college, but yet she was number 2 in her high school graduating class, scored the highest on the SAT, but she still didn't feel worthy of going to college. And she went to talk to one of the guidance counselors there at the school, and the guidance counselor told her, said, people like you don't go to college. And she said, when people say like people like you, she said, right there you're stereotyping and putting a stigma on me. Well, what do you mean people like me? He said, well, people like you serve people like me. Of course, that guy was corrected and got the principal got after him, but still, I don't think anyone would knowingly want to do that, but sometimes it's just our action, sometimes by leaving people out, or sometimes by being cautious around children who may not have grown up in a mother and father home. And again, and I tell people this continuously when I go, I'll go to 30 churches a year, speaking with a choir that travels. And I'll tell people, it is not the children's fault they're at Falcon Children's Home. Let me make that clear. They're there because of some other reason. They've done nothing to earn their right there. So please don't hold that against a child. But we need to do all we can to make a difference.
When we think about Falcon Children's Home, and we think about the number of programs, we're going to talk about a few of those in a few minutes, but when we think about the number of programs, if it were not for Falcon Children's Home, if it were not for that facility and for what you and your staff has done, at least we know when you talked about those 80 kids that you've got now, what if any alternative exist?
Well, they really, the climate in I don't want to say the state, but in the federal legislation is they're not for group homes. They really want all children placed in foster care. And in some ways I can understand that, because in foster care you do have more of a family type setting than you do a group type setting. But unfortunately there's not enough foster homes out there. If there was, there would be no Falcon Children's Home. And most foster homes don't want children that are teenagers. They'll take the younger ones, but don't give us the teenagers because of sometimes the baggage and the habits they may bring with them. So the alternative there would be foster homes, or if they don't have enough foster homes, they come to group homes. So it's the group homes or foster homes are really the alternatives at this point. That's why we got into licensing foster homes about 4 years ago. I've told our staff I'd like to have 100 foster homes within the next 5 years. And someone said, well, that may run you out of business. I said, so it does. If it does, then I'll come back and ask JW for a job, see if I can work over here.
Absolutely, absolutely. But I'll go ahead and put your name down.
But I don't know that all children are better in a foster home setting. Because some of the teenagers have become so hardened over time that they really like the group home setting better. And right now we have kind of like a family type setting anyway. We try to keep siblings together if they come as a sibling group. And we'll have 7 to 8 kids on a cottage with 2 house parents, and they live with the children. So we do the best we can to make it like a home type setting. But the thing I like about group home setting is the things we offer. Like we've got our own private school on campus. Last year we had 16 graduates, 13 in college this fall, so they can go to our own private school. We have a creative arts program. We have a music program. If you can come, when they come to the Hartsville program, you'll see that, interpretive dance and those kind of things. We also have 1 social worker on campus per 15 children. We have a cafeteria on campus, 3 good meals a day. So there's a lot of things there we offer, a lot of opportunities we offer. We take the kids every year to Carowinds. We take them to a national teen talent competition down in Florida. So the other thing too is in foster homes, you can't have a social worker there around the clock. At group homes, you've got at least I'd say 7 set of eyes watching at all times to make sure everything's being done like it should be done, between the social workers, administrative staff, the house parents, the school staff, recreation staff. We have a recreational program, those kind of things.
I know you, in some of the research I've done, you work very close with the North Carolina Department of Social Services and other state agencies and entities. It's critically important, I think, for folks to understand that there's certain accreditations and things that you have to comply with, and there's all kinds of, I'm sure, inspections and everything that goes on. When you look at that and you look at the involvement of that, we start thinking about, you know, children. If, again, the reason I asked that question, if you were not there, we see other countries where kids literally, when I say kids, I'm talking 8 to 12, 13, that just literally roam the streets in groups and survive off the street. And it's hard for folks to wrap their heads around that, but I know you're aware of some countries that exist like that. And today, they're existing like that.
Oh, absolutely. In fact, we got a young man who was adopted by a family in South Carolina, but he was from the Ukraine. And the adoption didn't work out, and so he came to Falcon Children's Home. And he began to tell us stories of what it was like in the Ukraine. He did go to an orphanage in the Ukraine, and he said the things he would tell us was just atrocious. So thank God for social services. Sarah Bradshaw does a wonderful job here as director of Sampson County Social Services. I work closely with Brenda Jackson, the director of Social Services in Cumberland County. But we also, realizing, I sort of took a pledge when I got to Falcon that we would try to help children anywhere that we could help children. So we do support 1 or 2 group homes over, one in Indonesia and 1 in India. And I feel like when people give to us, if we're helping other children, it's the same thing. If we could teach children, because I know over there they don't have the resources we have here. But thank God for America and what we are doing. When I said that it was our fault, foster care system and all that, for sometimes these children not turn out the way we want them to turn out, I don't, but believe me, we're far above any other country as far as the way we treat our young people who are, for whatever reason, in the foster care system. And to all the social workers who work with Cumberland County Social Services, Sampson County, Harnett County, and the surrounding areas, they do a wonderful job. And we tell them, I had the director of Cumberland County met with me, or the programs director, when I first got there about 12 years ago. Mr. Leggett, tell me what your vision is for Falcon Children's Home. I said, tell me what your vision is. No, I want to know your vision. I said, well, I want to know your vision because we're here to partner with you. There's 10,000 foster kids in the state of North Carolina, over 1,000 in Cumberland County.
We're going to take another break. When we come back, I want to talk a bit about some of those issues for folks. If they're listening to this show, they want to call, they've got an issue, they've got a concern, they know someone, what do they do, who do they reach out to? Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be back in a moment. Stay tuned. We're talking with Joey Leggett, CEO of Falcon's Children's Home. We'll be back in one moment.
You come out to replace a bad sensor, and that adds a 5-year commitment to my contract, and you don't tell me? Here's your sign.
Switch to the sign that's keeping homes secure and customers happy all over the area. Security from Star Communications. We pride ourselves on fair pricing and quick, friendly service every time.
Somebody try to break into this place?
Security from Star Communications.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Halfway the show here at 2:30 on Tuesday. The name of the show is We Should Know. You may be listening to us on radio. If you are, I've had a number of people to tell me that they listen to the show at 2:30 as they sit at the school somewhere to pick up either their grandchildren or children. And what would be more important today than you be listening to a show that's talking about children and those children that are maybe less fortunate to not have a structured family and they have the capacity to end up in a safe haven. I use that word, Joey Leggett, as the CEO of Falcon's Children's Home, a safe haven that gives them structure to help them through a crisis. So as folks are listening to this show today and they hear us talking, many people may think, well, what can I do and what is my responsibility here? Is it a societal thing? Is it a church thing? Can I give through my church? Is there a way I can help Falcon's Children's Home and the mission that I truly believe God has placed on your shoulders to carry forward? What can they do? How do they reach you?
Well, yes to all those. It is a societal thing. It is a church thing. It is a civic group thing. It's an individual thing. I get the question all the time, do you get state funds? We do, but if we relied totally just on state funds, we would be able to provide the bare necessities. It's what people do for us. In addition to that, allows us to have a private school, that allows us to have a recreation program, that allows us to have a group that travels a creative arts program, that allows us to take children on field trips, that allows us to have a good Christmas for our children. So to get involved, we would just, you can go to falconchildrenshome.org, our website, to get involved. You can also contact us at 910-980-1065. That's the phone number at Falcon Children's Home. And you can contact me personally at my email address at jleggett at fchfs.org, which stands for Falcon Children's Home Family Services.org. I'd be glad to hear from you. But you can also go through a lot of your churches. A lot of the churches do support Falcon Children's Home. If you want to give through your churches, it is tax deductible. But not only monetarily, if you want to volunteer, it means a lot to our children there to see groups that come back over and over again. Because remember, there's been so much uncertainty in their life. So we have certain groups that will come do cookouts. We've had motorcycle groups do motorcycle rides for the kids and bring the motorcycles to the campus, let the kids ride on the motorcycles. And there's also a visitor resource program. There is a program that will allow you to, if you pass all the recommendations or all the requirements of social services, that you can take a child into your home overnight, if that is the purpose, or lease out for the day and become a visitor resource for a child, where you don't become exactly like a foster family, but you do become a family that they can rely upon during holidays and those kind of things. Mm-hmm. And normally of the 80-some kids, we'll have about 20-25 kids left on campus during the Christmas season. You can get involved in the Christmas party. Every year at Roundabout Skating Ring, Michelle Ellis and a group of people from the Fayetteville and Eastover area do a wonderful Christmas party. And in fact, they'll buy these kids the best Christmas gifts they've ever seen for Christmas. And I think you have to spend at least $400 per child to be in this party, which seems kind of high. But when you think about buying Christmas for a child, that's really not that high considering. And I can tell a story real quickly that will exemplify what they do there. One year after one of those parties, a little girl was riding back with her house parent on a van back to Falcon Children's Home, and she said, this has been the best Christmas ever. For the first time in my life, I got everything I asked for. But just for that moment, then it came back to her. She said, but I'd give it all back in today if I could go home with my mom and my dad. And so I say get involved, because just fill that gap that a child feels like they're in a different type of setting than they would be at their home setting.
Joey, would it be a hard ask for people listening or watching today as we talk about this for just a moment, just less than 15 seconds, to place in their mind that they are a certain age, 5, 10, or 15, and they find themselves in foster care at Falcon Children's Home? If they put themselves in that child's shoes, would that help them better understand what you're trying and what you have accomplished?
I think I'd give everybody an assignment, unless you've been a foster child. If you've never been a foster child, imagine, just do this on your own, imagine going to town or shopping today, and the first stranger you meet, imagine that's the person you're going to go home with for the next 6 to 8 months. How long before you'd feel comfortable with that stranger on the street? I don't feel totally comfortable right now with J.W. Simmons. I think I could go home and live with J.W. Simmons, but I'm not sure. But think about the next time you meet a stranger on the street, if you've never been in foster care.
You've never seen him before.
Never seen him before. And so all of a sudden I take you and say, okay, J.W., this is the person you're going to be staying with for the next 6 months. You'd be very, worried about that person.
Especially at that vulnerable age.
That vulnerable age. So that's basically what it's like. They bring them to Falcon, and I can see it when they come in these doors. And especially at Falcon, because it's a 45-acre campus with 10 different buildings, or 12 different buildings actually. So imagine you're coming, and in your first place you come and meet this strange social worker. Then we take you down to the college and you meet your new house parents. So just imagine how respectful you'll be of this person, because that's the person who's responsible for you. That's going to be taking care of you. So if you got time in this next few weeks during the Christmas season and Thanksgiving season, just to do this, just try this project one time. Walk out, and when you see somebody, say, okay, I'm just going to pretend that's going to be my foster parent, or maybe my house parents at a group home. And for the next 6 months, that's the person I'm going to live with. That's how a child must feel when they first come.
And Joey, when I think about what you just said, it strikes me that as folks put themselves in that situation and think, if this was me, and we're at the time of the year that is known for, quote, giving, and giving to other people. And there's, as you just mentioned, there's so much spent on many times items that after Christmas folks are returning left and right. A donation to a Falcon Children's Home in the name of somebody can be done, can it not?
Oh, absolutely, yes. We have.
I mean, that'd be a great Christmas present.
Yes, it'd be a great Christmas present. And if you want to give and just designate it for a Christmas present, we make sure we follow. We have auditors that make sure we follow what the requirements are on any gifts that are giving. If you want to give in the memory of someone or to honor someone, I can assure you it goes to a great cause. And again, we make sure whatever money is given for children goes to the children. It does not go to administrative costs or any other costs, and not my salary, anybody else's salary. We designate just for a special activities account for the children. And it can help to brighten a child's Christmas.
Excuse me. When I look at that, I'm thinking in terms oftentimes of gifts that you see where, somebody will get a tie, they get a shirt or what have you, you take it back and exchange it. But literally, if somebody decides they want to do that, and whether it's $10 or whether it's $100 or whether it's $10,000, they give a present in the name of somebody else. Do you have some kind of system set up where you can give that person a card or a document, say, that basically validates that so much money has been given in your name to Falcon Children?
Oh, absolutely. An example, Chris Bird does my taxes here in Clinton. And he's got some clients who wanted to be able to donate to something. He said, listen, I've got a client who works at Falcon Children's Home. And so they made a donation to Falcon Children's Home. So we send Chris Bird a card saying thank you for referring them. We send them a card. This is done in honor of Chris Bird, letting them know that. And a lot of times we have people who will pass away, and they will say in lieu of flowers or in lieu of this, make a donation to Falcon Children's Home. When they do that, we give them a card and also a tax ID receipt for those who give. So we have like a little nice card that says this was given in honor or memory of. And we have a lot of systems set up just for that. We also have a PayPal system set up at Falcon Children's Home on our website, www.falconchildren'shome.com, so you can get through PayPal and that sort of system also.
So for that special gift, it literally could be whether it's a $10 donation or whatever. Just consider it when the plate is passed at church. Whatever you put in there, that's going to be your conscience. That you're feeling this, it's something you need to do. And if it's part of your annual prescription to say, I've been blessed, and this is a way of returning it back to give to the children, which is literally the future of our country and our society.
Absolutely. And that's, and if I can delve into the Harvest Train program a little bit, that's really what the Harvest Train program is about, because we want to say thank you to all those people who give to Falcon Children's Home. And back in 1949, they were about to close the doors. And so they got together some women's ministry groups from churches and some preachers and said, hey, we got to do something to keep the doors open at Falcon. So they started what they called Harvest Train, called Santa Claus Train to begin with in 1949. And it progressed up through all these years where people bring monies and bring food and commodities to Children's Home. There's a big parade in front of the campus, and then the kids do a thank you program. And that's what they're going to do this year. We're going to do that program twice, because we also realize there's such a contingent of people out there in the community who are giving to Falcon Children's Home. We want to say thank you to the community as well as the church. So this year we'll be doing 2 Harvest Train programs, and I promise you it will be a remarkable program. And it all started because of a man and wife who decided they wanted to give at Christmas to a kid at Falcon Children's Home. And so he reluctantly agreed to do this at his wife's urging, and then found out he fell in love with this young man who he was sponsoring. So every year at Christmas he asked to sponsor this same child. And unfortunately, about 2 years ago, he had a hunting accident which took his life. And so, but in his honor, there are still his friends to this day do a golf tournament for Falcon Children's Home to raise money for Falcon Children's Home, because it was important to him. And the young man that he sponsored left Falcon Children's Home, went to Fayetteville State University, graduated, has come back and is now working at Falcon Children's Home. So that young man and family will be there this year. So I really love to invite people to come to Harvest Train so we can say thank you for what you do, and you can see what goes on at Falcon. That's on Saturday the 23rd at 7 p.m. at J. Cobleth Auditorium in Falcon, North Carolina, or on Tuesday the 26th at 10:30 in the morning at J. Cobleth Auditorium in Falcon, North Carolina.
So mark your calendars, the 23rd and 26th. If you want to actually get physically involved, engaged, and see what goes on, the doors is open. You can walk through and see. And if somehow we asked folks a while ago to put their mindset and imagine they were a foster child or a child that was entering, which I think was a good example. Now, if you want to progressively look at that journey, you can see where you would go. You can see what those people, as you pointed out, that you may have never seen before. And there are a lot of folks maybe listening to the show that has experienced that.
Yeah, there's a lot. We have about 2,000 people there normally at Harvest Train, almost 2,500. It fills the building up. And that's another reason we're doing it on Saturday night. We want more people to be able to go. And some people can't get off work on Tuesday, so it gives us an opportunity to go see the program too without missing work on a Tuesday before Thanksgiving. But I promise you, if you see this program, and of course we've been rehearsing now for almost 2 months, you're going to laugh, you're going to cry, you're going to be blessed. And you'll get an insight in Falcon Children's Home. All the parts are played by students or staff of Falcon Children's Home. And so and we got a 50-member choir that you also see singing there, and interpretive dance. And just a little bit of a clue, there's the Temptations and the Supremes are going to be there too, and I'll just leave that.
Yeah, exactly. So if the line is long, you know, that'll usually get a crowd.
That's right.
We're going to take another break, and we're going to come back for our last segment. So hopefully at that time I'm going to get you to give them a phone number again for folks that want to call, and we'll hit on some of these other programs that I need to find out about that we talked about last time. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being with us. We're going to come back for our last segment. So call a friend, stay tuned, and maybe get your pen ready, because we're going to try to give you a couple of telephone numbers, how to reach Falcon's Children's Home. And we'll be back in a moment. Again, stay tuned, call a friend.
To get the most out of your electronic devices, you need a strong internet connection and a protected home Wi-Fi network. You need high-speed internet from Star. Star has the fastest, most affordable high-speed internet service available for all your devices. We have no long-term contracts or high-pressure sales. Our service speaks for itself, and switching is hassle-free. We take care of everything with free installation from a local company. High-speed internet from Star. Internet at the speed of life.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. We Should Know is on there. If you happen to be driving down the road, listening to us on WCLN radio, or if you happen to be at home and you're preparing that meal for whatever family coming in, and you happen to flip the TV on, WCLN, Star Communications Channel 16. There's a summation of the Sampson Weekly newspaper. We're talking about children. We're talking about one of the probably most important thing that most people will say if you ask, what's the most important thing in your life? And they'll say, my grandchildren or children. We're talking about that today for those folks that may not have the typical structured home, and we're talking with Joey Leggett, CEO of Falcon's Children's Home. Joey, we just talked a little bit about this Harvest Train event, this coming up. Again, I want you to give folks, if you will, your number where they can reach you or somebody to get more information in case they want to take a church group. I mean, I was just sitting here as we were talking on break. It seems to me that that would be a wonderful event for children and youth in church groups to be able to just go up and look and experience for them how blessed they are, and also how fortunate we are to have a Falcon's Children's Home right here nearby.
Very much so. In fact, a lot of churches do that. They'll bring busloads of church members, especially the young people, to watch the program. If they decide to be part of the Tuesday program, we actually have a parade they could ride in with their church bus, or bring a van, or bring and just bring candy, because the kids line the road and they throw out candy. And someone wants to ask me, said, Mr. Leggett, do the teenagers like candy like the smaller children? I said, just watch them. Throw that candy out there and see how much they like the candy.
Absolutely.
But it's a wonderful moving experience for a church group. A lot of church groups do that. We'd encourage you to be a part of that. All we ask is you bring some commodities, some canned goods or something like that that goes to the children's home. You don't have to, but we just ask for that. But I would encourage any church group, if you have any interest, or any individual, just come see it, check it out. That's what I would say. But call 910-980-1065. Again, 910-980-1065. And if you want to speak to me, I can't promise you I'll be there when you call, but I promise you I'll call you back.
Right.
Just ask to speak to Joey Leggett. But just tell the receptionist you want to be a part of Harvest Train, you want to bring your church group, get the details, we can send you a flyer as well as a letter detailing today's events. But again, that would be on Saturday, the 23rd at 7 o'clock p.m., just doing the program on Saturday night, not the parade and everything. Just the program on Saturday night at 7 o'clock p.m. Or if you want to be part of the parade and the other festivities around the Tuesday program, that would be Tuesday morning. The parade begins at 8:30, so if you want to be in the parade, let us know. We can get you lined up in the parade. Bring your church bus, bring candy. And then the program falls at 10:30. And then when the program's over with, we feed everybody some good old barbecue. So we usually feed about 1,000 people after the program's over with. So we'll feed you if you come to the program. But again, I would encourage you, you don't have to be a certain denomination, you don't even have to be a church group. If you're a civic group and you want to come, please be a part of that. I promise you, it'll kick off your holiday season like no other program can.
That was 910-980-1065. Get all the information you need. You can also just simply Google. Falcon's Children's Home, North Carolina. Wonderful website. Everything we've kind of talked about today as relates to content issues is on that website. And also on that website is something I want to try to hit on as much as I can here, is the various programs that you're involved in. And some of these are programs that, since you becoming involved as a CEO, has kind of matured and come to fruition. And one of those is in Turbinville, South Carolina, Turbinville's Children's Home down there. Let's start with that. How is that program doing? And that's something that was, I guess, kind of became part of a mission for you.
Yes, sir. We're part of the International Pentecostal Holiness Church, and the headquarters for North Carolina is in Falcon. It was at a Falcon camp meeting that it began. We have a South Carolina conference, and their headquarters is in Lake City, South Carolina. So the bishop of that conference asked me, who serves on my board, Mr. Leggett, would you be interested in opening up another children's home in South Carolina? I said yes and no, yes, because my hands were full in North Carolina. And but I told him I'd go look at it. It was in Turbinville. The Free Will Baptists had operated that children's home for the past 30 years, and they decided to get out of it. And very wonderful people, and they did a wonderful job operating it. So I agreed to do it more or less as a favor to that bishop. But I went down there, and again, not to say that I'm anything a saint or anything like that, because I'm certainly not. But when I drove up to the campus and I got out of the car, I just sort of knew. I said, we should be here. Now, everything would tell you we shouldn't be there. They couldn't get children. They had to close their doors because it was getting difficult getting children and paying the bills. But I just had this feeling. And then when I met with the gentlemen from the South Carolina Free Will Baptist Association, they were such nice gentlemen, and they believed so much in that home and what it was doing. And we just instantly had a relationship between us, a camaraderie, if you would. And so I went back, and so we researched it, and we opened it about 3 years ago. And now it's a smaller children's home. It can only hold 30 children. We now have 28 children there. It's fully staffed. It's paying its way. They have their own Harvest Train program in the last Thursday night in June called Hope Train. Last year it raised $100,000 for that children's home.
Wow.
We found favor with the officials in South Carolina. So again, if you're a person of faith, I'm not smart enough to do all that stuff. It's just we helped them. We shared with them what we were doing in Falcon. We got the policies and procedures and the programs down there. We went and met with the officials, and we just have found real favor there. In fact, the director there now, we have a director there, he went and spoke to the South Carolina General Assembly about 2 weeks ago. And just imagine, there was no children's home there 4 years ago. And here he is, the director of Turbeville Children's Home, being asked to give the expertise on group homes for South Carolina at the General Assembly in South Carolina.
And so much of it is timing. You know, it's just like as we're talking about the programs that's going on now that you've got going on. We're talking about Harvest Train. For folks listening out there, this year going to be the right time for them to give? And is this year the year that folks that are listening to this also say, I'm going to do something this year. I'm not just going to think about it. I'm going to take my cell phone while I'm sitting there waiting for children to pick up my grandchildren that are so blessed to have grandparents or parents to pick them up. Am I going to take my cell phone and actually call 910-1065 and say, look, I want to make a commitment to do something? Is that the year? And that's what I hear you saying. Turbeville is was an example of that. You were there for a reason. This is happening.
Well, you know, not to get preachy, but the Bible says pure religion is this, to care for the widows and the orphans. And I like pure religion because there's a lot of religion out there that's not pure.
Absolutely.
And so when I read the Bible and it says pure religion is this, so, and I know God's for children. If God's for children, you tell me who can be against you. So I just say, you know, if you really want to, you know, do something that makes a difference, I think looking after children and the elderly, which is, and widows, is very important.
Yeah, and I think as I look at all of these programs, the foster care program, there's one that I know we mentioned on the last time you were here, the Royal Home Ministries. That's was over in the Salemburg, town of Salemburg. Is that still a viable program, or what's going on?
Very viable. We moved it from Salemburg to Falcon.
Okay.
3 years ago, we built a $2.5 million campus across the road from Falcon Children's Home for mothers and babies and for the maternity program.
Right.
Marvin Whitfield and Joyce Whitfield, who lived here in Clinton, started the Royal Home. It's probably been almost over 20 years ago now. And the old Dr. Royal Home there in Salemburg served as its base home and did a very good job. We still own that property, but we decided that we really, when we developed the Mothers and Babies program to coincide with the maternity home, that program really took off. In fact, other group homes started copying our program. Lake Waccamaw started doing the program that we do now. And so I said, we've got to have an up-to-date, state-of-the-art campus for this, because this is going to be the next program that takes us to the next generation. And certainly it has been that way. We right now have 8 mothers and 8 babies on our campus at Falcon Children's Home. We have 4 pregnant girls. And what's so important about that is the mothers can go to our school, get their education, we help them get a job, put them through parenting classes, nutritional classes, help them learn to be the mother they should be. Or sometimes we find out they can't be the mother they should be. And we call social services and say, listen, there's some red flags here. I'd rather that happen there than that mother be out in an apartment somewhere and that baby get hurt or something like that. But most of the time they do end up being the mother they should be. But we moved that campus to Falcon, and if you get a chance, if you go to Falcon, it's right across the road from Falcon Children's Home, state-of-the-art campus. It's a little apartment-type setting. They have a little living room, a kitchen, and 2 bedrooms, and it's a nice apartments you would see anywhere, and it's really one of our fastest-growing programs.
I want to hit these as quick as I can because we're coming up on the last few minutes here.
Okay.
But the New Life Christian adoptions, that a lot of folks don't realize that you're involved in that process as well.
Yes, we again, that was started with the Royal Home down in Salemburg. And we can do adoptions. It's usually private adoptions. We can do adoptions through social services, but normally ours is private adoptions. So if anyone wants to adopt a child, now our children at Falcon Children's Home, most of them are not adoptable. So we couldn't do that anyway because that'd be a conflict of interest. We can't have our own children go through our own adoption agency. But we could refer you to another adoption agency if one of our children is adoptable. But as far as our adoption agency, if you want to sign up with the Christian organization to be on the waiting list for adoptions, then we'll try to find you a baby if we can. I will tell you there's usually a long waiting period for that. But we want Christian families who want to adopt a child to sign up for that agency because we believe the best family for a child to be is in a Christian home.
In a structured environment.
Structured environment.
Falcon's Christian Academy is another program that is a huge part of your operation there.
Yeah, it was a program, again, a child got me started on this program. We had a child a few years ago that really had a difficult time and said, Mr. Leggett, I can't go to public school anymore because I'm running the wrong crowd. I'm getting caught up in these things. And so we sent her to a private school. I just want to see how it would work. And the change in her life made me realize we need to start our own private school. So it's now been in existence 7 years. And like last year, we had 16 graduates, 13 are in college this fall. We have a full-fledged sports program. We have a former president of Emmanuel College as our principal. And so to me, it's one of the programs that makes the biggest difference because we can't make our kids go to our private school. And our private school is open to the community also. But 98% of the kids who are eligible to go to our private school choose to go to our private school because they realize it's good for them. They get caught up on grade. A lot of our kids that come to us are behind in their grades because they've had so much transition in their life, going to different type foster homes, going to different schools. And so this allows us to get them caught up on their education.
The thrift store, a big part of what you do, and that not only allows additional funds and assets, but if folks have stuff they want to give, they can give through your thrift store.
We'll take your clothes, we'll take anything you feel like.
Churches are good contributors for that.
Churches are. We have a warehouse where we keep all the things that are given to us, socks, clothes, any kind of school book bags. Those
I tell people
things.
it's bicycles or bow ties. It doesn't matter.
Bicycles, bow ties. And then but we also have a thrift store in Dunn, North Carolina, because that's only 8 miles from the campus of Falcon Children's Home. But and we everything that's sold in that thrift store goes back to fund our private school there on campus.
Joey, this number just keeps resonating. It's 910-980-1065. 910-980-1065. For folks that are listening, I would say call now. I want to thank you for being here. We've run out of time. Anytime we can help, let us know, and be sure to come back, and God bless you.
Thank you, Dave.
Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you for being with us today. I want to thank you for listening to a show that's very viable and important, it's particularly at this time of the year when we think about Jesus Christ and giving. We look forward to seeing you again next week, and may God bless.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of We Should Know with host J.W. Simmons. If you have a question, comment, or suggestion regarding this or any episode, please send your emails to weshouldknowedu@gmail.com. And remember to tune in every Tuesday at 2:30 for another informative episode of We Should Know.